Hey guys, VaulSC here, back with another video. Sorry it's been a little while since the last one, but last night I finally got around to playing a game. It was Onyx against O.S.S, the operational subsection of Left, the newer sectorial which came out in Operation Cold Front. And we were playing a game of TicTacToe. So there's the 9 objectives in the grid, and you've got to take as many of them as you can, preferably in a line. Alright, well let's just jump straight into it. Minimize the cam. My opponent has got his hands on a brand new set of the new classified cards. So here it is here. You get a so-called easy deck and a more difficult deck. Here's the card that I've drawn here, Test Run. Exactly the same as the old Test Run because it's in the easy deck here, but upgraded art for all of the classifieds, and there are a few new classified mechanics, as you guys know about, having read the Season 10 pack. So just before I talk about the scenario itself, I've got a lot of requests from people watching my YouTube channel over the months, and a lot of people want me to sort of describe the lists in a little bit more detail before the bat rep. So happy to oblige there. Let's just jump into it. Obviously, I know my list because I wrote it, so I've got it right here. The left list, it's reconstructed from memory, so there'll be a few gaps in it, unfortunately. But here we go. So this is an Onyx list, and yes, it is built with TicTacToe in mind and this particular opponent in mind. I know that you know, it's not great practice for ITS if you've just specifically written a list for a particular opponent and mission. Having said that, though, quite often when you do go to an ITS tournament, you will write lists based on your expectation about which players you expect to show up if you know the meta quite well, what armies they're likely to have, and of course you'll know the missions in advance, and it's not a bad idea to have you know, one of your lists being a specialized list for particular missions that might be hard. So that's why we've got the E-drone in here, the Evo hacking device, but we'll talk about it in a moment. So Kurnao with his God mode you know kit here. I say God mode just because he's hyper efficient, right? So he's got the plasma rifle in the link team with the pitcher, can land the pitcher very effectively, and then when he's hacking, he's got Whip 14 with Maestro, when he's got the Unidron with the K1 combi rifle in there to, you know, act as a deflector for the whole link. So just so super powerful. Don't think I need to go on and on about him. My Nexus Lieutenant is nearby because if one of the Unidrons is killed, or if I don't want Kurnao to come with him for some reason, the Nexus can actually, the Lieutenant can actually jump into the link team with the Reformation. The 4 other Unidrons, though, the Plasma Sniper Rifle, great ARO piece, but also brilliant at doing damage once the system fires on it. The basic Fort Observer Unidron to press some buttons if the Nexus is not there. We've got the Spitfire Unidron, which I sometimes take in this case, just to really hammer them in that mid-range. So in that sort of 16 to 24 inch range gap, this guy really shines. Most targets he's hitting on 17s with 5 dice because of, you know, range bonus, ignoring cover because of assisted fire with shock, and the link team bonus, which is just incredibly powerful. The K1 combi is purely for the 10 bot. Unidrons are hackable, so if they get surprised by an assault hacker, having BTS 6 and a deflect is really good, and Kurnao can obviously benefit from that immensely. Also because you're going to be firing pitches around as well, so you need to deal with enemy hackers that might also go after your Evo. Mark Rep Tracker with HMG for the MSV2, a couple of Echidrons as normal, Q-Drone with HMG, even though you're kind of spreading your attention there with assisted fire, there's no reason why you can't put it on the Q-Drone, get a couple of shots off with them, and then swap it over to, say, the Plasma Sniper in the link team. Unfortunately, you can't have the buff up on more than one model at a time. Malignos, obviously, for pressing buttons in this mission. Whip 14, very good. With the Evo repeater there, he's getting +3 bonuses for pressing the button, which actually I forgot when I played the game. Very easy to forget. A couple of Imitrons, R-Drone, obviously Medtech and Slave Drone there. The Evo repeater, the real powerful synergy with him against sectorials is that if Kurnao stands up and fires his repeaters, very easy to hit them because of his link team bonuses, and you can even restore his repeater count with the Echidron with baggage. But once it's down, you can use the E-drone to actually hack targets which aren't normally hackable if they're in a link team, and isolate them and remove them from the link team. So it's the ideal counter to, say, your Fusilier holding a missile launcher in a link team, because it breaks him out of it. He only gets 1 shot, no bonuses, and you can kill him quite easily and move on. So that's my list that I'm playing. We've got my opponent with O.S.S. And remember, this is reconstructed from memory. I might not have the groups correct, and I might not have the specific profiles correct, but from what I remember, he's taking the Dakini Link team with the Paramedic and the TacBot with an HMG. Normally you'd need 5 Dakinis, but CSU is allowed to join it. You can have a Deva in there, so he's taking the Assault Hacker with Lightning. Lightning's a really good upgrade. The only problem is that it doesn't come with a killer hacking device. It's just an upgrade to a Assault Hacking device, so you're still having to run into the Firewall bonus, unfortunately. And he's gone with the Missile Launcher as well, because it's a wild card that can join any Link team, so plenty of guns in there. Dakinis Hacker with Hacking Device Plus, obviously for the assisted fire, very good. He's gone for the Shukra Lieutenant for Strategos level 1, so he's wanting to make use of that. A Garuda, even more powerful now with Season 10 changes, with being able to land anywhere. Boarding Shotgun allows them to get right up next to an enemy line of units and blap them. A couple of flashpole spots, love seeing them there, good for being cheerleaders. A couple of net rods for the same reason. Bounty Hunter with Sniper Rifle, never been a huge fan of him, especially since that job is already being done by his Proxy Mark II with Multi-Sniper. But he's also got the Proxy Doctor with Yudbots. I found this list a little bit strange that it doesn't have an Engineer, because you've got all of those guns on the Dakinis and so forth, and the Missile Bot. And they're the ones that are going to be getting in the fights, so being able to revive them is much more crucial. I honestly would have dropped maybe this additional Shukra chain of command over here. I know he's got counterintelligence and he's really cool, but dropping something like that to be able to afford a Sophotect instead, I think would have been my play there with this list. Anyway, you guys have got a rough sense of sort of what we're playing there, so let's jump into the mission. Okay. So, gonna get out my pen. This is TicTacToe. As you can see, there are 9 objectives spread out there. So you've obviously got the deployment zones here and here. You can get 4 points if you get 3 of them in a line. So they can be in a line like that or in a line like that. If you have more of them than your opponent, then you get an additional 3 points. And if you get 1 by moving from your deployment zone here and to the other side of the table and getting one of these 3 here, you get an additional set of points. And there's 1 point up for grabs for classified. So I think it's 4 plus 3 plus 2 plus 1 is how to get the maximum 10. Okay, so sort of played the deployment zone here at sunset, so that's why there's the lens flare going on and everything like that. But I lost the Lieutenant Initiative role. My opponent decided to pick the table side he wanted, so I'm deploying first, and I decided to take first turn. TicTacToe is a mission where definitely having second turn helps, but it's not one of those missions where your opponent just has to move one model, about 12 inches from one side of the board to another side of the board and win, or press one button. TicTacToe is a mission where if you get a lot of momentum throughout the game and kill some specialists and set up 6 or more consoles and they have only got 1 or 2, it can actually be really hard for your opponent to get to enough places with enough specialists and pass enough whip checks, so that's why I didn't mind going first here. So my deployment, I've got the Icadron on the extreme right-hand side. The Link team is set up here. We'll see a better photo of them in a minute. The Evo Repeater represented by, ironically, an LF remote over there. Lieutenant's up in this building too. We've got my HVT on the far side, but let's just zoom in for some better photos. So here we go. Link team. So on this convenient Bandua building here, there's Kernau prone up in the corner. He's part of the Link team at the moment. There's the Plasma Sniper. His job is to go to the edge of this wall and sort of shoot past this wall here. Sorry, the cam's in the wrong spot. Let's just move that down a bit. This guy here has a Spitfire, so he's going to be also moving out in this angle and getting some really good shots off. This chap here is the Forward Observer. We've got the guy in the middle here with the Deflector and the K1 Combi ready to help out the hackers. There's the Slave drone here, ready to move in and repair this Plasma Sniper if he goes up against the Dakini Link team at the start of the game and loses. So hopefully he goes into unconscious level 2 with Dogged and shoots again, or I deliberately go unconscious and revive him. That's that kind of thing. The Icadron up here, quite importantly there, because he may need to move around here later on and actually replenish Kernau's supply of repeaters. I forgot to mention, obviously, the 10 bot that you would have seen in there, just to mark out which Unidron's which. My lieutenant's just snugly in the corner there, prone. Dr. Worm is over here, so we can either actually move around to revive these Unidrons if they need it, or revive the Q drone if the Q drone moves around to this corner and fires off at the Dakini group in the distance and takes a hit. The Doctor's right there to revive him. And of course, as you guys know, I've got test runs, so if that actually happens, I'll pick up a classified point. Looking to the left-hand side of the table, there's an R drone over here, so that's my flashball spot. We saw the Q drone. I have run out of combined army drones, so I'm actually using this left model here to represent the Evo repeater, and he is facing back this way. He does have a combi rifle, so if that Garuda lands in the back of my lines, I might get a shot off on him. Alternatively, just hack transport's the other way to go. One of the Imitrons landing here just further in front of the deployment zone, but the other one scatters off the table, so it'll only be one Imitron this time, and of course the Malignos deploying here just near to these objectives where he can move out. The Unidron link team can handle the ones on the other side of the table over here, so the Malignos is going to get the ones on the left, and I've chosen to keep the Mark Rep tracker in reserve. So my opponent lands a couple of AI beacons successfully in the middle of the table. Well done to him. Then he starts deploying his left troopers. So on the extreme left-hand side, we've got a Dakini paramedic. We've got the missile launcher bot right here. This is the, I think it's the assault hacker as the link leader in the link, the Diva one. There's the HMG hanging up on the top of the building. Let's slow down for a sec and talk about this, because my opponent knows that he's not got the first turn, and he's deploying the HMG and the missile launcher in positions where they can ARO. And intuitively, that can be a good idea, because the Dakinis Dakini's got mimetism, he's got bonus for the link and extra dice and so forth. But the problem that I'm seeing with this is that he knows that he's up against Onyx. He can see my whole army deployed before he puts this link team down. He knows that I can attack with either an assisted fire Q drone or an assisted fire plasma sniper in a link team. So because he knows that I'll have the first opportunity to put up assisted fire, and he's going to be AROing without assisted fire, the odds are definitely pretty good that I'll win the firefight. I'll get out dice calculator later in the bat rep, but I really questioned his decision here to do the intuitive thing, which is to set up the strongest ARO guns as, ARO pieces right from the get-go. Whereas he could have, kept some of these models in total cover and forced me to spend a lot of time coming to him, and probably not been very successful at that, given the slow mobility of my army. And then when it was his turn, move out and really use the strength of the Dakini link team, which is their movement speed and their ability to win face-to-face rolls with mimetism. So I didn't really like that deployment very much. He's got a CSU over here, so it's basically these five here who are in the link team, this group. He does have a flashball spot on the roof, as well as the lieutenant over there, actually represented by one of the FRRM models. I don't think he's got all of his models painted up yet for a left. So there we are there. So you can see the missile bot and the Diva, I think it is. No, not the Diva. Is it a Shukra? Can't quite remember. Shukra lieutenant, and then there's another Shukra, and then there's a Diva. I can't quite remember. I may have got the army list a little bit wrong there. Anyway, moving on. Further to the right of that position, there is a bounty hunter with a sniper. Again, he's not prone, he's just deployed watching the table. You've got to wonder whether, he has very good odds against, a Q drone with assisted fire, or a Unidron in a 5-man link with assisted fire and a plasma sniper. I mean, I appreciate that you have to slow your opponent down from pressing the buttons, but I think it's better move to keep him in total cover initially, and then bring him up later in the game, like turn 2 or 3, when it's time for your opponent to actually move out and press buttons. If you are trying to slow your opponent down in the first turn, when their only goal is to clear models and gut your order pool, and they're not even trying to press buttons at that point in the game, you're just wasting a model effectively, in my opinion. So there's another flashball spot nearby, and this guy here definitely is a Shukra with a boarding shotgun and a nanopulsar, and I believe chain of command as well. Okay, a War Core as well on the right-hand side, along with, this is the Dakinis down the bottom here, and then it comes over to me again for my reserve trooper, which is the Mark Rep tracker. I'm seeing here that he's got his Dakini HMG up here. So I might be able to wrangle it so the HMG can get to a point where I can see the Dakini, ignore his mimetism, and hopefully beat him in the face-to-face roll without actually having to come into line of sight of his missile launcher. So for me, it'll be 4 dice on 12s versus his 2 dice on 14s. So yeah, I've got a decent shot at actually winning that shootout. His reserve is the post-human split up into the doctor on the far right-hand side. He's hidden deployed his post-human multi-sniper, and he's got this guy in the middle here with the twin SMGs. Going to be going for the console pretty early. Okay, so first, obviously, action of the game is for me to use my E-drone, my Evo repeater, to put up assisted fire, represented by this little green gemstone next to the Q-drone. The Q-drone then shuffles around the corner just enough, and we're doing some pie slicing here, guys. A little bit of, you know, play by intent, so to speak, just so I can get line of sight through to his Dakini with HMG, which, to be honest, isn't really that hard to do because the missile launcher bot who's just below him is kind of blocked off by this building here anyway. So it really wasn't hard for me to demonstrate physically using a silhouette how I could achieve that, moving the Q-drone into range. So I might actually take some time now to look up dice calculator. Let's do this together because I think this is an important part of this game. And I'd like to actually involve it in the bat rep a bit more. You guys can all see that? Yep, there we go. So let's say we go combined army and we go for the Q-drone. Where is he? There's the Q-drone there. So he's attacking, he's shooting with his HMG. The ammunition's fine, burst fine, damage fine. The range is between 16 and 32. And he's not a link team, no visibility, but he does have cover, right? So the Dakini doesn't ignore cover. So that's what we've got there for the Q-drone. On the left side of things, we've got a Dakini. So let's go find him. There he is there. He is shooting back. His weapon is an HMG as well, and it is at the correct range band as well. He is in a 5-man link, so he's +1 burst, +3 blister skill, and obviously he's got cover, and we know that he's got mimetism already, so we'll roll this up, see how this goes. Okay, so let's just show the modifiers to make sure I've got it right. So the Q-drone is... Oh, we've... okay, here's what we've done wrong. I've clicked on cover for the Dakini, but assisted fire is actually ignoring that, so that's incorrect. So let's re-roll the dice. I had it wrong. I think you guys might have actually seen during the split second that I actually had on screen that without assisted fire it's actually quite even. But once we include assisted fire in there, the Q-drone is inflicting a wound or more. 55.92% of the time, the Dakini's hitting only 21.64% of the time, and then 22.45%. I just spent another order because we both missed. But I think the really crucial thing about this, which the stats aren't really showing, is that the Dakini can't remove the Q-drone from the board with just 2 shots back, because worst case scenario, he gets 2 crits and I go into second level unconscious. Then the Q-drone the Dr. Worm revives him, and the Dakini, you know, is going to get shot at again. So in reality, I have multiple attempts to get that 55.92% outcome. So I think if you're the LF player, putting your Dakini HMG up there on that rooftop visible to the enemy deployment zone, even after you've seen your opponent deploy a Q-drone like that in that position, is just not really the best move, I think, because you have all the information available to you to see that this is what's going to happen to you. So that is indeed what happens. The Q-drone does destroy the Dakini with HMG, and that allows me to then go back to the Evo repeater, spend another order, and move the assisted fire from the Q-drone over to the plasma sniper, thanks to the repeater that the Echidron comes equipped with. So then the Unidron can then move down here and snipe at the missile bot, which is in this corner. I'll just get my camera out of the way. So we've already eliminated the Dakini up here, and of course he's unconscious now. And sadly, there's no engineer at all in the LF army. So we've got a couple of shots here going through again. Given that you know that you're probably going to lose your Dakini, should the missile launcher be there as well? Well, sadly, we're just going to have to make our point again with this. So if we go back to it and we come down and just have a look at how bad it is. So we've got a Unidron bat droid. By the way, the main difference with this one is that if the Unidron does lose the face-to-face roll, taking a missile hit is likely to just remove him. He's not going to have a chance to be revived by the Dr. Worm. Having said that, if he does take exactly 2 wounds or 1 wound, he can go dogged and get another shot. So it is pretty powerful. So let's just have a look at what he's got. Plasma sniper rifle, cool. And I'm not too sure if this website will factor in assisted fire correctly, where the opponent doesn't get their +3 armor. But he is in the correct range band. He is in a 5-man link. He does have cover, whereas the Dakini TAC bot is no longer a TAC bot. It's actually a remote. So is it a SAMEC rebot? Yeah, SAMEC rebot. Missile launcher, blast mode is what you want to use. He's now on a 4-man link team, so that's going to be equivalent to a 3-man link team. Range is correct, and he doesn't have cover because, you know, he's up against assisted fire once again. So obviously stats really, really bad. 76.57 versus 16.48. But it kind of gets even worse if you factor in that if the remote or the SAMEC rebot actually does get a hit, and the Unidron passes even 1 armor save, he goes dogged and can just shoot him again. So it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. Of course, in the actual game, that's exactly what happens. The Unidron wins the firefight and simply moves around the corner a little bit more, shoots at the bounty hunter, who is over this side of the board around here, and just cleans him out. Really easy to do when you're hitting on 17s. Kernow then standing up over here, given all the aero pieces are cleared, he's going to try and lob a couple of repeaters down into this angle here. Right next to what remains of the link team, there's an extra Dakini around there. There's an assault hacker there. The assault hacker, even though he's got lightning, is still not going to be much match for Kernow, because he's going to go through a firewall. He's going to be going up against Maestro. He's going to be going up against the deflector, right? So the Aleph guy is going to be -9. Kernow's going to be -6, but Kernow's actually got you know, the +3 from Maestro, so it's -9s versus -3 effectively. And Kernow's got more dice than the other guy does, so that would kill him. But unfortunately, placing these 2 repeaters here, they both missed, and I didn't really have enough time to get my Echidron over there to replenish him, so we decided to abandon that plan. Q-Drone, after completing his little successful run, is moved over to this position, and that's because firing down this line here stops my opponent from capturing these objectives, and I can see from his deployment that he doesn't really have any HMGs or sniper rifles or anything around there that can really contend with the Q-Drone. Then moving the Malignos over to the spot here to press the button, completely forgetting that I have a +3 for the Evo bonus, and because I forgot, I thought that I'd failed both of his attempts to do this, so no marker there yet. Malignos just completely fluffs that one. So it's looking pretty bad for Aleph, I think, due to that, you know, bad deployment strategy. But it goes over to the left turn, and the post-German moves out with the 2 submachine guns. And, you know, feeling a little bit despondent here, given how badly the first turn's gone, so he decides to move out and press this button, despite the fact there's a plasma sniper sitting right there. So goes to press the button, fails the attempt to press the button, and the plasma sniper kills him. So it's sort of like you know, it's a bit of a sort of a giving up spot at this point. Having said that, though, there is a Garuda that can now land here. He puts up control jump, manages to beat the Hax transport that I'm attempting here, and he lands right next to this Echidron, but not right within line of sight of the Echidron. And we realize there's a move he can make here where he can actually move out towards the link team and go for a suicide run. Because they're actually all clustered up, and I definitely wasn't expecting a boarding shotgun there. So what happens is that the Garuda can actually shoot at the front member here, which is the plasma sniper, and that's going to put down the template, which after a little bit of wrangling and finicking, had to accept that really was going to hit everybody, like all members of the link team, except for obviously Kernow, who's on top of the rooftop. It's going to hit the slave drone as well. So if I decide to put some of the Unidrons unconscious, and I could make them go dogged, but if I decide to put them unconscious, the Dr. Worm might be able to revive them, unless of course the slave drone dies to this as well. Interestingly, though, every member of the Link team can see the Dakini as he moves out, so the Garuda as he moves out. So it's going to be my, beefed up double dice face-to-face rolls against his 2 dice as well, so we better roll well. But he's Ballistic Skill 12 plus 6 for boarding shotgun range, no cover, and my opponent rolls an 8 and an 18, so he gets a crit. So that means that my Unidrons, can't even roll high enough to contend with the 18, so they'll all take hits. Interestingly enough, though, the crit only applies to the targeted model. So in this case, the plasma sniper at the front that I've got circled there does have to face against a crit. But the other Unidrons only have to contend with a roll of an 18. It doesn't count as a crit when compared with them. So if any of the other Unidrons roll a crit of their own, that will actually take precedence over the 18 in their specific case, if you guys are following that. Sorry to get really technical here, but let's just talk you through what really happens. So the Garuda rolls an 8 and an 18 on his dice. The Plasma Sniper actually comes equipped with a pistol, amazingly, and counters one of the shots, but does take the wound. And I decided to make him go unconscious rather than dogged because, again, I'm hopeful that I can revive him. The Unidron with the Spitfire and the Unidron with the Plasma Carbine both fail to beat the 18. They don't roll crits, and they are rendered unconscious as well. I'm seeing here that my opponent has very little left to do with his turn, so going dogged isn't really going to accomplish anything, unless, of course, his Garuda stays alive. But the other reason I'm making them go unconscious is that the Plasma Carbine guy behind the sniper, so I'll just color him in here, this guy here, I'm going to do an orange. This guy does indeed roll a crit on one of his 2 dice. So because that puts the Garuda down, when I go on to roll these other guys, I don't need to make them dogged. So what ends up happening is that these 3 go unconscious. The Garuda goes unconscious because of the crit here from the heroic K1 combi rifle guy, actually. Sorry, I said it was a Plasma Carbine, but it's a K1. And I've got 3 models unconscious, which I could potentially revive with a doctor who's nearby. The helper bot, though, annoyingly, is destroyed. If I'd managed to pass some armor saves with the slave drone, that would have been really cool, because then the doctor can actually go over and, I believe, heal 2 people at a time. I believe that's possible. Anyway, he does decide to move out now that he's actually wrecked my Link team with his... what did we say it was again? Go with an assault hacking device. It's a Diva assault hacking device with upgraded lightning. So that's this guy here. He's got the CSU right here. And this guy over here, obviously, is the Dakini paramedic. And they're all moving out around here towards the objectives now. Okay, so moving around to this first objective. As they go, he's firing his combi rifle at the Unidron with Plasma Sniper, trying to remove it completely from the table, because he knows that I could revive it and he doesn't want that, but his combi rifle shots seem to go astray here with only the 3-man Link and don't actually connect at all. So there he goes there. He's coming in with his assault hacker and pressing the button here to at least get on the board with the buttons. Just to show what's happening here, this is the one closest to his side of the board. He then moves around here towards the middle past the car. So the next photo is going to show you their position as have moved through here. So that you've got the Diva prone behind the car. My deployment zone is this way, by the way, so that's where the facing is. The CSU comes up to next to the objective and captures it, and the Dakini goes here behind the dumpster. Alright. He's then looking at potentially moving out with his proxy and his Dakinis, but the problem for them is the Q drone has been tactically set up there where it's got a line down here, so he can't really cautious move past this. There's not enough. There's too much space there to cover, so that doesn't quite work for him. He decides to go into suppression fire instead with some of his combi rifles at the back. Okay, so looking at the game state, realizing how far ahead I was, I decided I actually would go and spend a few orders with Dr. Worm and try and revive the Link team, because that would give me tons more orders in the last turn. And if I didn't fail too many whip checks here, I could move out with a full 5-man squad and absolutely just wreck them and just finish the game right there and then. So moving forward, passing the first whip check, completing test run, by the way, moving around to the Spitfire guy, reviving him as well, and then thirdly around to the Plasma Sniper, well, eventually the Plasma Sniper. Initially, I just moved out with a 4-man Link team, reviving it, and got the Plasma Sniper later, but the position here is that he's got his link team through there in the middle of the field. I didn't really want to move the Doctor around to this point where he'd get shot. So first of all, reviving the Spitfire, spending a command token to reform the link team. By the way, I still have, you know, command tokens that I could have used to re-roll the doctoring attempts or the engineering attempts, right? So what we've got here is we've got Kurnow on the link team now. We've got the K1 guy on the link team. We've got the Plasma Carbine Forward Observer and, of course, the Spitfire now. This guy's still down, but the Spitfire shot's more than enough to move through here and just wreck the CSU very easily, and of course the Dakini, who's behind the dumpster there. So things go pretty well there, and after clearing out those potential ARO pieces, we can then go back and grab the Plasma Sniper. So moving out with them. What happens here though is he decides to reveal his post-human sniper, which happens to be over here. And the problem with this is it's a bit of a desperate play because he's going to be shooting at the Spitfire Unidron as he moves through past line of sight. And at that range band, sure, he's got 1 dice and a 16, but the Unidron Spitfire is 5 dice, right? With no burst link, sorry, no link bonus to ballista skill, but maybe let's just have a look at dice calculator again, because this is one situation where my opponent sort of deserves to actually have some better luck, but it's still not that great. So if we take a Unidron Batroid and we find a Spitfire for him, and we put him in a 4-man link team, so just the +1 burst, and we have the correct range, which is correct, and we don't give him cover because he's out in the open. I had previously used the Evo Repeater to put the Assister Fire back onto him. So if we go over to here and find a Posthuman, so Posthuman Proxy Mark II, he's got a sniper rifle, which he's going to use anti-material mode for. The range is in the good range band, but we're not going to give him cover because he's up against Assister Fire and he's not in a link team. So let's roll the dice. So I think it's 5 dice on 8s versus 1 dice on 16s. So showing the raw stats, sorry, showing the modifiers rather. Yeah, that's correct. So active model, net BS is 8, but he's got 5 dice, and reactive model, net BS is 16, but he's got 1 dice. And this is actually kind of surprising. If you look at this, 43% chance that the Unidron wins, 40% chance the Posthuman wins. So in terms of odds, the Unidron's got a slightly better chance. Not only that, but there's also there's also the fact, really. Let's just assert that fact that, let's say the Posthuman rolls a crit and the Unidron fails the other double action armor save and takes 2 wounds outright. Well, it goes dog, doesn't it? And then it just shoots again, right? So there's 2 chances of then taking out that Posthuman. Let's say neither player succeeds and they both miss or pass armor saves. What can then happen is that the Mark Rep tracker nearby stands up, moves out from the cover of the truck, and then shoots at the Posthuman, and that would be 12s on 4 dice versus 1 dice on 16, which is probably even worse for the Posthuman. So, bit of a desperate play here. I felt like he probably could have revealed this guy earlier or placed him somewhere else, because he's got all 3 of his big ARO pieces on one side of the table, rather than spreading them out a bit, which I think might have been more effective. So Posthuman, in fact, does get killed by the Spitfire, and that's the end of that. So I'm going to go through the rest of the bat rep pretty quickly, because this game's basically done, and I think we've learned what we can from it. Link team just moving out, collecting a console. Dr. Worm going and picking up the Plasma Sniper, who could be reformed into Link. The Malignos moving out and grabbing some more consoles as he moves towards the enemy table. By the end of this turn, Combined Army have 3 consoles and the Aleph have 2. But of course, Aleph just don't have any troops left. So trying a coordinated order to go after the Q drone, but failing pretty spectacularly, and the Q drone cuts them up. This guy over here is the Assault Hacker, who decides to move out and going after effectively Kurnow, who stood up at this point. So he's going up against the Unidrons and Kurnow, but he just gets smacked by the Plasma. Tries to land a boarding shotgun here, but doesn't quite have the angle he needs. Plus, he loses the face-to-face roll against the team anyway. We've got the, what do you call this guy? I think this is the, let me just find it on the list. It's a Shukra Lieutenant with a multi-rifle. Stands up and tries to have a go at Kurnow, but that doesn't really work either. And on the other side of the board, trying to move in and press a button with his other Shukra. Crucially, if he can get to this objective and press it, he's got a line of 3 objectives on his side of the board. So if I fail every single whip check, he'll actually win the game. But of course, I've got a whole turn left to do that. So the Lieutenant moving down from the building, moving towards my console just to even it up. And then the Link team moving out towards his side of the board. Maligno's actually moving through after picking up some more objectives, going to close combat with the Shukra, hilariously dying, so Shukra wins. But once Kurnow and his boys have been in there, you've got... oh, excuse me. You've got a situation where Combined have pulled off a 10-0. So you've got this one, you can't really see it, but that one and this one, this one, this one, and this one. So Combined Army obviously have got 7 objectives, Aleph have 2. So in terms of the noughts and crosses, there's obviously a line here, a line here, a line here, even though I only needed 1. So you've got the line, you've got more objectives, you've got 1 on your opponent's side of the board, I've got the classified. So it's an easy 10-0 sweep. Unfortunately, I mean, I think you guys can sort of see what happened here. It was a little bit of a bad decision in terms of deployment and a couple of rash moves once things started to go wrong. But I don't think it's a fault of, you know, the faction or anything. I think it's just some basic, you know, basic decisions about deployment and execution. In terms of the lists, I don't really think this is the best O.S.S list, but it's definitely a list that you can win with anyway. Like, what I would have done with it is just tried to engineer a situation where I can really go screaming along there with the Dakini HMG and get some kills. Try to go first with this list because you've invested the points in counterintelligence, which is a really, really good ability. And then with the amazing ARO pieces like the Proxy Mark II and even the Bounty Hunter, I would have just you know, kept them till turn 3 to reveal them and slow my opponent down when he's trying to take back the objective. So I think this would have been a better first turn list, but that was not the case this time around. Sorry that the bat rep was a bit one-sided, but hopefully you guys got a little bit out of it, and I'm going to call it there. I'll see you guys again soon.